The second. Ready? Well, good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Temecula City Council to order. And I would like to recognize Athena Kaniki for our prelude music. Thank you very much. It was lovely. Tonight we have Pastor Tiffany Baker from the Empowerment Center. Where are you, Pastor Tiffany? There she is. How are you? Good. And that's going to be followed by the flag salute from Councilmember Nagar. So if you come forward, Pastor Tiffany, if you all stand, please, and then remain standing for the flag salute. I haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you. Good evening. Thank you for having me. Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for your grace and your mercy and your loving kindness towards us as a city. Thank you for this great, great city. I pray for the council members, Lord, as they come together continuously to make decisions on behalf of our city. We thank you, Lord, for continual insight to the matters that come before them. We thank you, Lord, for foresight for the decisions that they make and the outcome. We thank you for grace to do it in unity and in the bond of peace. We thank you that you have chosen such tireless people to work on our behalf to give us a great city to live in. And God, we just pray for grace for continual service. We pray this respectfully in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, with grace and mercy, which is a good theme to address the flag,
Yes.
please put your right hand over your heart and say with me, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Nagar. And you can see we're a little light tonight, so could we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Comachero is not here. Councilmember Nagar.
here.
Roberts is not here. Washington.
Here.
And Mayor Edwards.
Here, you tried to answer for
was a
three
triple
people,
here.
didn't you? He did a triple here.
They're here in spirit.
Mayor Pro Tem Comachero and Councilmember Roberts are in Washington, D.C. They serve on a couple of national committees, and so we're well represented on the National League of Cities, so we appreciate that work. So they're not here this evening. So we will muddle along as best as we can. So we will move along. We have public comments, I think. So I'll go ahead and read the disclaimer for public comments. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna check on our high schoolers first. So I see we have a number of high schoolers in the audience. So who's here from Chaparral? Where are the Pumas tonight? Chaparral is always well represented. Go Pumas. All right, where are the Bears tonight? Go Bears, good representation of Bears. Wolfpack, are you here?
I love it. That's all right. That is all right.
You know, I gotta tell you,
That's our winner, right? That's
one
right.
Wolfpack person, you know, she can outdo all the other people. So could I just have a simple show of hands from the Wolfpack? I was so distracted. Oh, we have two. But that was excellent. And then anybody from Linfield Lions or maybe Rancho Christian or anybody else? No? Oh, I saw a hand in the back, I'm not sure. Well, welcome, and we hope you enjoy your time at the city council meeting, and no, you cannot leave before 8 o'clock. So you have to be here an hour unless the meeting adjourns. So now we can move on to public comments. A total of 30 minutes is provided so members of the public may address the city council on items that appear within the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If the speaker chooses to address the city council on an item listed on the consent calendar or a matter not listed on the agenda, a request to speak form must be filled out and filed with the city clerk prior to the city council addressing public comments and the consent calendar. Once the speaker is called to speak, please come forward and state your name for the record. For all public hearing or council business items on the agenda, a request to speak form must be filed with the city clerk prior to the city council addressing that item. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. All right, so any public comments here?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 6.
All right, can you call the first speaker, please?
Lyle Wells, to be followed by Carl Nielsen.
Mr. Wells, welcome.
Hello, hello. Okay. I am owner of Black's Taxi with my wife, Jessica, and I. I've been here before. Speaking in reference to Uber, I spoke last time about it, and they're here. So I just want to kind of cover a little bit of where we stand. If you took Uber out of the equation and looked at what these drivers are doing, they're illegal, unlicensed cabs. They're not asking for suggested donations. They're asking for fares as payment. There's no permanently affixed signage. There's no fire extinguishers. There's no posted rate signs, no commercial plates, no commercial auto. According to local municipal code, these cars are operating as taxis, and the state has given them asylum to operate against your codes. The CPUC, the California Public Utilities Commission, issued a letter of compliance to Uber, Lyft, Sidecar, and Wings, stating that, please note, you will have 60 days from the state of the letter, March 6, 2014, to comply with the deficiencies, or the application will be denied because they are operating statewide on a conditional license this whole time. Let's see here. The California Public Utilities Commission refers to these companies as TNCs, or Transportation Network Companies. Cities like Houston, Las Vegas, Miami, Portland, St. Louis all managed to level the playing field between these TNCs and cab and limo companies like myself by means of local municipal code inclusion that sets the local stage for change of legislation. These drivers, just because they're certified by the CPUC, does not make them above the law or what they're behaving as cabs. This issue, where's it at here? These drivers are governed by CPUC, but I'm asking if there's something we can do, you guys can do, to see that these guys are legally operating under their laws and under ours locally, since they are picking up local customers, not state customers. These cars have been cruising through Old Town. They have an app. You can watch them. Maybe you can't see, but you can actually track these guys. I've sat and I watched, not picking up customers, just kind of perusing through the city. Because it's GPS. It goes by GPS, so the closest guy gets the run. They have little blue glowing lights in the front window. Like taxis, we have our lights in the roof. They have their lights in the window. If a passerby sees this blue glowing light, they can flag this cab, flag this Uber car, knowing that it's an Uber and it's for hire, so to speak. And then that's a taxi, flagging anybody down. I mean, that's not allowed by TPCs, and TPCs are also under the PUC. I think step one would be removing any signage from these vehicles locally here, maybe municipal code that says that they can't advertise on the exterior of the car that they're available for any kind of pickups, because that, again, is a taxi, according to the change of codes. In my hometown of Chicago, taxi companies are filing lawsuits for not enforcing the taxi rules against companies, against
Wells,
these TNCs.
your time is up.
Oh, all righty. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Carl Nielsen, to be followed by Jane McMacken.
Good evening. Once again, I'm here bugging everybody. I have to say I have been very negligent as far as this Ubers. I totally was in the dark until I got to talk to Mr. Wells. And he informed me of what's going on, and I've talked to people in San Diego, I've talked to people in Los Angeles, and Temecula doesn't want to see what's going on in these other cities. We do not want to see this happen. My main concern, number one, is the insurance. They are required right now to have vehicle insurance, just like you and I have on our car. There's some lawsuits pending right now because of this insurance is not adequate. They've had a death occur I think there's one in San Diego now. And they had no insurance to cover it. So naturally, they're going to go after the city along with the company. This company really has a bottomless pit as far as money goes. So they have a lot of lobbyists pushing, getting them in here. Fortunately, I think finally the PUC is going to do something as far as requiring them to do some things. But my question is, number one, I don't think they should be governed by the PUC. That's my opinion. Number two, I think the city of Temecula needs to address this and address it firmly by enforcing the insurance requirement, enforcing them to comply with all the other regulations that taxi cabs have in the city. I don't care what they call themselves. It doesn't make any difference. They're basically doing the same thing. And I'm concerned of the fact that there's no vehicle inspections. These guys, the one I saw this weekend, he's just a driver that had a cab that went to San Diego, was with the yellow taxi cab company, decided he could make more money when Uber's contacted him. So he painted his Prius black, and now this weekend was here in Temecula. These people, there's a lot of problems associated with it. I don't want the city to go along with like some of the other cities have done and said, well, that's not our problem. I think it is our problem. I think we need to address it just like we've addressed the taxi cabs. And fortunately, though, we're really making headway in that area. And I'd like to see the same thing happen with this company. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Jane McMacken, to be followed by Frank Taylor.
Good evening.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for your service. I know how much hard work you do here. I want to talk about just two things. First, I moved here did I say my name? Jane McMacken? I moved here about 2 years ago, and I want to tell you how much I love the city and kind of what I do love about it. And then secondly, I want to just make an appeal to you as a council for some decisions you'll be making in the future. First of all, I love the weather. There's not much you can do about that, but it's a good start.
That's Mr. Washington's department.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Washington. I love Old Town. I love how you can go down there and it's always busy and there's always things to do and it's just a great place to walk around and have a good
Mr.
meal.
Nagar's department. So.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nagar. I love the Promenade Mall. Is that yours? All right, we're hitting it out of the ballpark, aren't we? What I love there, of course, is just that there's just so much to do there, and I love that walking area where P.F. Chang's is and the Lucky Dog restaurant and stuff like that. And then the parks, from the Ronald Reagan Park, where there's everything you can think of to do there, to Harveston Lake, where I live. And I just love the beauty and the things to do with kids, the fishing, the playground, just walking around the park. And Waverly Park, which is in my neck of the woods in Harveston, where people come out every evening and play with their families. And it just reminds me of the old-fashioned neighborhood I lived in when I was a kid. I love it. The wineries, what can you say? Fantastic. We're members of a few wineries, and we just love
the parks for Mr. Comachero, truly.
Okay.
And Mr. Roberts will take credit for the wineries, so you've covered them all.
All right, shall I just go on from there? Well, I was actually going to talk about the government here and how impressed I have been. I've been to city council a few times, and I've observed how council is really receptive to the people in this town. One of the issues was, I think, a development off of Temecula Parkway, and the homeowners had a real issue because the developer wasn't really including the old age things and stuff like that. And you guys put a halt to it and revisited it, and I'm not sure where it's at right now, but I really appreciated the fact that you listened to the people. And then the arts organizations here, there have been a couple of town hall meetings for them, and I just feel that council is very receptive to what the artists...
You better hurry, Ms. Mackin, you're down to 20 seconds.
And then what I wanted to appeal to you about was, in Harveston, or next to Harveston, is the Winchester Hills development. I want to say Harveston is a fabulous community. You did a fantastic job of master planning that. With Winchester Hills, I hope that you will complement Harveston with something like mixed-use development, local businesses with maybe some condos up above, stuff like that. Hopefully not more car dealerships, even though I love them, and Mercedes is great, but I just hope that you really think about how that can complement our great neighborhood of Harveston.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Frank Taylor, to be followed by Marion Mayer.
Mr. Taylor, good evening.
My name's Frank Taylor, and I'm a resident of Palm Desert. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, and Mr. City Manager. This is a request for a study session or a new business item for a future date to present a conceptual program regarding what have been called in the past as drones, but we promote them as small unmanned aerial systems. No funding is being requested at this time, and I've provided a copy of this request to the city clerk. Like I said, I'm Frank Taylor. I retired as a captain with the Sheriff's Department in 2012 after almost 29 years of service to local communities in Riverside County. I reside in Palm Desert, and the majority of my law enforcement career was in the Coachella Valley. I'm now part of Community Safety Consulting Group, which includes pilots, retired public safety members, and retired public safety members, and several consultants within the unmanned aerial systems community. Our group is currently working and volunteering our time locally to help public agencies look at the viability of unmanned aerial systems programs within their communities. Local agencies have become interested in unmanned systems technology to supplement their operations and potentially reduce some costs. We have been taking a new approach to educate the public, the media, and the stakeholders first. As an example, it's anticipated these systems will not replace any current aerial services, but may be able to accomplish about 30% of the current search and aerial operations at about 2% of the cost. This would still leave about 70% of the operations conducted by conventional means, but may show significant savings in the future while helping save lives. Several public agencies have given their support of the conceptual program, and we've given presentations in front of almost every city council in the Coachella Valley. We've now begun reaching out towards the western part of Riverside County, showing how this concept focuses upon 4 specific areas: search and rescue, disaster preparedness, public agency emergencies, and also to educate governmental officials, the public, and other stakeholders regarding the 2015 integration of unmanned aerial systems into the national airspace. If you're unaware, federal law was passed in 2012 requiring the FAA to not only allow public agencies to immediately begin using unmanned systems, but also to prepare a plan for September of 2015 to integrate unmanned systems commercially into the airspace. State and local officials have begun looking at laws and ordinance to restrict this, and we feel an educational process ahead of time will be very beneficial to those making decisions in the future. Our presentation would be provided to promote the education process.
20 seconds, Mr. Taylor.
As I said before, no funding is being requested. Therefore, we respectfully request the opportunity to offer a presentation at a future study session or a new business item. We believe our expertise will help governmental officials increase their understanding on the future of a program, and also on future commercial integration of unmanned systems in Riverside County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Marion Mayer, to be followed by Tom DeMott.
Hello, thank you for hearing me. My name is Marion Meyer, and I just have a request. We've been in touch with some of the people in the planning, and we had a neighbor put solar in, which is great, and I understand the need of it, but there's no codes that can restrict or help another homeowner next door if
Ooh.
If this happens to your house. We have lost value in our home because of the solar, and we've talked to different people here, and they said, we'd love to help you, but there is no code that demands help for us in them replacing their code replacing their solar into a different area. The solar isn't pretty, but I understand the need for it, and that's not the problem. But I'm asking that you could get some codes into your system for saving other people's homes. I mean, ours, the solar's already there. I don't know if there's anything they can ever do, but that's what I'm requesting. Thank you.
You know, we'll have, make sure we have your contact information, and we'll have planning staff get with you.
Okay, I've spoken with Tom
Okay.
Cole and Steve Lankin,
Yeah,
and so they said there's nothing more they can do because there was no code that they could follow, so.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
May I make a
yeah,
quick
sure.
comment? 2 years ago, this topic came up, and I believe at the time we directed planning staff to actually look into this, because while we couldn't regulate to have solar or not have solar,
Right.
where it could be placed was something that could be regulated, and this came up on a couple of occasions. Push came to shove, we had some turnover in the community development department, but I think it's probably time that staff look into that and come up with a set of guidelines that need to be followed.
Yeah, I'm going to
It's
push.
the heat that it glares. We can't even use the front room of our home. Right now, it's not bad because the sun has moved. These photos were taken in October. So when it comes to, I'm worried about the summertime. As the summertime comes, we don't have to use our air conditioner much because we have a single-story home. You just open the windows, the breeze comes through into Temecula.
Yeah, I'm
So
surprised it hasn't burned a hole in the back of your house. Okay, so,
it's the front, it's the whole front, my front of my home. And my grandkids couldn't even play with their toys at Christmas because of the glare coming in the morning. So thank you for hearing me.
we're going to push that up the ladder, and so we'll get a hold of you, definitely.
Tom DeMott.
Mr. DeMott, how are you? Long time no see.
Truly. Well, good evening. Tom DeMott, Temecula Creek Inn, Mayor Edwards and council members and staff. I usually show up about the time we renew the Tourism Improvement District authority, and I missed it this year, so I'm tardy but present. So, a few things that I wanted to say about that. Thank you for your recent action renewing the Hospitality Tourism Improvement District. This industry self-assessment continues to enjoy 100% support from hoteliers and is adding over $1 million a year in resources to marketing performed in support of our events and members. This allows us to keep Temecula well-positioned as a tourism destination. I came prepared tonight to cite a lot of positive statistics, like the fact that hotel occupancies in Temecula grew over 3% in 2013, reaching levels not seen since 2007. Or that we at Temecula Creek Inn invested more than $3 million in improving our resort, opened a new restaurant, Cork Fire Kitchen, and created 27 new jobs in the last 12 months. Maybe I could mention that multiple investors are looking at Temecula as a destination to develop new hospitality projects, activity that we haven't seen in many years here in town. Or I could mention the great new craft brewery scene that's popped up in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it didn't exist here in Temecula. Now I think there's 8. It's exciting. Instead, I'd like to speak for a moment on behalf of our guests and visitors to this beautiful community. Temecula is the heart of Southern California wine country, and people come to share many key life moments here. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people get married here every year. Engagements happen, memorials are held, many, many friendships are made and shared. I just learned yesterday that Temecula Wine Country now has over 2 million visitors annually, all coming to share for a moment the valley that we get to call home. So move over, Napa. Here's what a few people have to say about hospitality in our community. From the Temecula Valley Wine Growers Association Facebook page. Comment, I won't pretend to be able to speak intelligently as would an onophile, but that's hardly necessary when the wine speaks for itself. From the moment you walk in to the last sip sitting out in the sun, it was an end-to-end fabulous experience. From the Temecula Convention and Visitors Bureau Facebook page. Loved it, personally enjoyed it more than Napa or Sonoma. The most affordable wine country I've ever been to, with the best wine and atmosphere. You won't regret visiting this beautiful place. Oh, of course, from Temecula Creek Inn Facebook, We love the beautifully remodeled restaurant and its wonderful menu. The restaurant and bar staff are warm and welcoming, letting you feel like you could spend the day there. The area has too much to do, though, to sit inside. Wineries, the casino, shopping, and more. We had a wonderful weekend stay. I think these quotes are a reminder to us all. What makes the Temecula Valley a great place to visit are the same things that make it a great place for us all
You
to
need to
live.
summarize, Tom.
I think we should all feel honored to live and work here, and I take great pride in the opportunity we have to share Temecula with our guests. Thanks.
Thank you. Those are all the commenters. That's everyone?
No more speakers.
All right. Thank you. And we can now go on to city council reports, and Councilmember Washington is in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I'll start at the end. Tom, thank you for, even though you weren't here before, for coming in again. What you guys are doing out at TCI is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
It's a real treasure for Temecula and the Temecula Valley. And because the Business Improvement District has been so successful throughout the years, I think this year we tended to sort of gloss over it real quick. But it really is significant to note that all of the hotels are participating in that. They voluntarily raised their TOT, transient occupancy tax, that they add to the bill, because that money all goes back to them and promoting hotels and everything that goes along with those visits. It's been really a real success, and it adds value, I think, to our community. So even belatedly, thank you for coming in and reminding us of all those wonderful things. And we know from the statistics we've gotten from the Convention and Visitors Bureau that tourism dollars into this community continue to grow. I think we hit something close to $625 million for last year. And that's a number that's grown from about $150 million about 11 years ago. So it's just exploded. What that does for us as a community, as you pointed out, creates jobs, brings dollars into our community from people who are visiting here and leave their dollars and go home. And we get to spend those dollars on the things that our community values: public safety, parks, programs, fixing roads, whatever we need to get done. So thank you again. And sort of to segue from that point, I'd like to compliment everyone who was involved with the Rod Run this past weekend. I was here both days. I think it was a tremendous success. Director Hawkins, we call the Hawk. He was flying above, and without a drone, as the gentleman was speaking to earlier, he can do it on his own, overseeing a tremendous event. Dawn and her team, which consisted of some city staff and some volunteers from the community, such as the Drifters Car Club and others, who worked with Public Works, police, fire, the police chiefs here. We had remarkably few incidents for so many people, and I don't know if we have an estimate yet of how many folks came through town, but I'm going to guess that we saw probably at least 40 to 50,000 people throughout the weekend. Is that fairly accurate? Closer to 60,000 people. We had somewhere around 780 vehicles registered. We added a couple of new things that folks really seem to pick up on and enjoy. The purists like to see cars that are, older than 1970, mid-1970s. We had a DeLorean out there. We had some race cars from the BMW dealership. So it was something, I think, that had something to appeal to every group of folks. And it was just so fun to be there, watch people having fun. The hot rods would cruise Front Street and rev up their engines, and the kids would get excited and give them thumbs up. And so it was great to see the city take over that event when the previous planners decided to not do it anymore. And I think our team did an excellent job. So kudos to everyone involved.
Mr. Nagar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hawk, could you do me a favor and put this on the overhead for me real quick? I'd like to give a shout out when we can, and I think I saw Charles Walker come in. Charles, are you here?
Yeah,
Here you go, out there in the back. You know, we got a really nice letter from the Riverside County Office of Education that I think speaks so amazingly of our Human Service Department / Economic Development Department, and I just wanted to read it because I think our citizens need to see just what other people think throughout the county regarding Temecula and the efforts that we're making. And again, this came from Riverside County Office of Education, Kenneth Young's office. Dear Mr. Adams, I'm writing to commend the city's wonderful program for youth employment. The Riverside County Office of Education Transition Partnership Program is delighted to have discovered it. TPP helps young people with disabilities move out of special education classes and onto the first rung of their career ladder. It is a partnership between the county office, the State Department of Rehabilitation, and 16 school districts, including Temecula Valley Unified. As represented by the very impressive Charles Walker, Mr. Walker, the city of Temecula has been completely receptive to working with young people whose disabilities most often prove a barrier to employment. Wonderful internships were secured for 2 of our Temecula participants, opportunities that matched their interests and skills and provided them with the chance to learn and grow. In fact, both the young men have been offered continued paid employment with the city. We are so impressed by the city's emphasis on linking its young people with the business community. The topics in the soft skills workshop are exactly the skills that make or break a young worker in their first job. In this tough job market, such real-life knowledge combined with employment opportunities are almost impossible to come by, yet both students and local employers benefit so much. And so that's a shout out to that department. And Hawk, how many people do we have in the internship program right now?
During the summer months, we had close to 60 working in various city departments.
And that 60 included those with disabilities, those that without disabilities, and they're finding jobs. They're going to colleges.
We had high school kids. We had college students. We had folks that were graduated from college, and we had folks with special needs. So we really did have the gamut this summer, and it was a very positive experience for them all.
Various ages and nationalities too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. A good shout out to that department, Mr. Adams
Thank you.
and Mr. Hawkins and Charles. Good job back there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Comachero and I had the honor of being invited to attend a summit that was put on by the Gary Sinise Foundation. Gary Sinise being the gentleman who played Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, and he also is on CSI, and he's been in many, many movies. And he has been an advocate for several years for wounded warriors, or our most wounded heroes who have come back from the Middle East, people who have served in the military and suffered severe wounds. Many have lost limbs. And this was a surprise to us. First of all, we have been active participants with Gary Sinise in building a home for a couple of veterans here in town, and that's been an honor, Corporal Juan Dominguez being one of them. So when we received this invitation, both Jeff and I were very eager to attend. So we went to USC. It was held at USC at the School of Social Work. And when we got there, we were very surprised to learn that we were the only two representatives from any city or community. We thought it was going to be a group of cities, other cities, that were sitting down talking about how to best serve our wounded warriors or reach out to our military veterans or our military heroes. But the name of the summit was called Closing the Gap, and I have a copy of the agenda from that summit. Meeting the future needs of America's most severely wounded heroes and their caregivers. So after we had a little breakfast and kind of meet and greet, we all found our seats, and Jeff and I sat in the front row, and there was a dais in front of us, you know, just another table with all the speakers, and the speakers were very, very prestigious. We had surgeons from the most prestigious military hospitals, macrofacial surgeons that specialize in facial reconstruction from wounded military veterans, and surgeons who specialize in replacing limbs and prosthetics, and people who specialize in mental health care, dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and just everything that would cater to these special heroes coming back from the Middle East. And they began to play some videos that they had created, especially for this summit. And Jeff and I were absolutely flabbergasted when they came to a part of the video, and it was all about Temecula. And they had created a theme throughout the summit, and it was how to Temeculize communities throughout the nation. They want to use Temecula as a model for how to treat wounded warriors after they come home, and how to make them feel a part of their community, and to make them feel comfortable and provide resources to them. And we had no idea that this was the format for this summit. And to say that we were speechless would be an understatement. So the video ended, and Gary Sinise made some very wonderful opening remarks, and then looked at us sitting on the front row and said, "So tell us, how did you do it?" And Jeff and I really had not prepared anything, so we had the next 10 or 15 minutes to just talk about Temecula and talk about you, Temecula residents, because the whole thing, the way that we deal with our veterans and our military personnel and our active military and their families really is a reflection of the residents in our community. Sure, the city acts as a clearinghouse. We can provide lists of resources, and boy, the residents and our businesses step up, and they do provide services, maybe at a discount, or they're always ready to give things away if there's a fundraiser, or, I mean, you know, that's just the way Temecula is. It's not something that we necessarily plan. So when he says, "How did you do it?" really, we just have to say it's a reflection of who we are in Temecula, and it's a direct reflection of everybody that's watching on television and everybody that's sitting here. And we are so fortunate to be able to sit up here and be a part of that, and be able to direct veterans and their families to your business, to your organization or your nonprofit that you volunteer for. And yes, the city can facilitate some things too, like the concerts that we're able to have, or, you know, planning department, we can work when houses need to be built. We can provide lists of resources, and, you know, we can kind of pave the way and make things a little bit smoother. So they actually want us to do a strategic plan that they can bottle, if you will, and go to other cities and hand it out for the Temeculization of other communities across the country. So throughout this entire summit, and we were there for a whole day, we broke out into different groups after we'd heard from all these wonderful speakers. And the discussion was, you know, what do veterans need? What do these wounded heroes need? And how can we better provide those services? And I heard from other groups and other tables constantly throughout the day, how do we Temeculize? I heard that. I heard it over and over. So I just want to tell you all that whatever it is that you're doing, through your church, your nonprofit, through your home, using your children, teaching your kids, with your family, with your business, keep it up. Don't think it's gone unnoticed. It has not. And now it's going to spread across the nation because of actor Gary Sinise, who clearly has a heart for things that matter, and it's how we respect our military heroes who have given their all to protect us and protect our nation's freedom. So we give him many thanks, and when you see military people, just go up and thank them. So thank you all for everything you've done. Isn't that cool? It was so cool. Okay, going to move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under consent are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one roll call vote. There'll be no discussion of these items unless members of the City Council request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for a separate action. Item number 1, standard ordinance and resolution adoption procedure. Number 2, action minutes. Number 3, list of demands. Number 4, city treasurer's report as of January 31st, 2014.
Move the consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent. Cast your votes, please. Who made the second?
You got to press that button on
You
your
gotta press
screen,
that button
Mr.
on your
Washington.
screen, Mr. Washington.
I already pressed a button, so
Did you?
the only button left for him.
Don't let me pull this car over. Somebody needs to press the button. All right, then should we take a voice vote if, there it goes. And I bet it comes up to 3. What do you bet? And we have 3 in favor with 2 absent. All right. So we are going to recess the City Council meeting to the scheduled meetings of the Temecula Community Services District, the successor agency to the Temecula Redevelopment Agency, and the Temecula Housing Authority, and the Temecula Public Financing Authority. And let me get my pages straight. So in President Jeff Comachero's absence, I will be conducting the meeting. So we don't need the roll call because we can see that, yes, I have to use a separate gavel. Thank you very much. We can see that Washington, Nagar, and Edwards are here. Are there any comments?
No, there are not.
No comments? Okay, so moving on to the consent calendar. And I don't need to read this, I don't suppose, but I will go ahead. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted with one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the Temecula Community Services District request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Item number 5, action minutes.
Move consent.
Are you going to make them? I'll second that.
Yeah, motion and a second. All in favor, please cast your votes. And we have 3 in favor with 2 absent. Any reports? And if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Your director wanted to.
Mr. Director,
Maybe your general manager.
did anybody? I didn't see
I
any.
believe Mr. Hawkins may
Nobody
have,
made any noise.
Just
You better make some noise,
he
Mr.
didn't touch his
Hawkins.
button over there.
Just a couple.
You want the gavel?
I'm moving fast.
I know, Madam
All
President.
right, Mr. Hawkins,
Thank you, Madam President.
you have to talk about the
I
odd
know.
run.
Just a couple of quick points, and Councilman Washington covered the first. You know, this past weekend truly was the culmination of another just tremendous Team Temecula effort, which, as everyone agrees, probably resulted in the best ride run event ever. You know, from Dawn and her fantastic Dawn-tastic team, which includes Paula, Mike, and various departments, to the OTTA, drifters, and super volunteers such as Tom Edwards. Just an incredible job, and thank you all, and really thank you, the entire City Council, for your support. We really appreciate it. But of course, our Spring Fest events continue this coming Saturday and Sunday with the Old Town Bluegrass Festival. Melody has again put together another outstanding festival lineup, which will include many bluegrass favorites. The free concerts are Saturday, March 15th, and Sunday, March 16th, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on 2 stages. There will also be a special concert featuring the James King Band, Bluegrass, etc., and Silverado, Saturday evening at 7 p.m. at the Old Town Temecula Community Theater. Tickets are $20 and available at the theater website, www.temeculatheater.org. For more information, call 951-678-1456 or visit our special events website. That concludes my report.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, you should have been pounding on the table. That was That was important. All right, so,
How about you, General Manager?
General Manager, are you?
Nothing further
no?
tonight, Madam Vice President.
You are a troublemaker tonight, Mr. Washington. Okay, I have a motion to
Agenda here.
adjourn.
Second?
And a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 None opposed? All right. This meeting is adjourned. Okay, and we're going to reconvene the Temecula City Council meeting, moving on to City Council business. Item number 6, Global Citizens Viticulture Hospitality Vocational Program at the request of Council Member Nagar. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, we can. Item 6 comes at the request of Councilmember Nagar and seeks City Council input and a funding recommendation for the implementation of the Global Citizens Viticulture Hospitality Vocational Program. Just a little background. Last summer, the city, through a joint effort with the Human Services and Economic Development Divisions, developed and hosted a 6-week vocational training program called Global Citizens, which provided youth and special needs young adults with developmental disabilities an opportunity to acquire skills to live independently, find and retain a job, and develop social skills through a classroom format. Instruction was provided by college students and a host of expert guest speakers, and as a result, the program successfully graduated 10 students with their certificate in City Vocational Training Program. As a result of the success of the initial Global Citizens Program, the Human Services Division of Community Services has again teamed with Economic Development and developed a new opportunity to provide youth with special needs additional vocational opportunities. Now, big on public-private partnerships and as the heart of Southern California wine country, which we discussed earlier, the City of Temecula has collaborated with Spiro Vineyards in designing the proposed Global Citizens Viticulture program. This is a specialized vocational program that will teach basic computer skills, local vineyard history, hospitality, and customer service skills, in addition to the agriculture that is a part of the winemaking business. Students will be given the opportunity to earn a customer service certification and a food handler's license. This program may provide students with the prerequisite knowledge to potentially further their viticultural education. Now, the class instruction will cover several components of a classroom teaching. That's history and culture of winemaking, science and production, agricultural management, and marketing and hospitality, and customer service. The concept is to provide students ages 16 to 26 with classroom instructions 2 days per week and 2 hours per day on basic skills as it relates to viticulture and other business aspects. Now, some of the proposed instructors, Mark Woodsmall of Spiro Vineyards, Mike Rennie of Leoness Cellars, and Steve Williamson of the Temecula Valley Museum, have agreed to collaborate and volunteer their time and talent as part of the instruction effort. The program will be taught in an interactive and hands-on classroom format with opportunities to tour local wineries. This model actually mirrors the viticulture, enology, and winery technology courses of study used at MSJC. However, this program is also provided at UC Davis, Cal State Fresno, and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It is hopeful that local colleges such as MSJC and Cal State San Marcos will take their programs a bit further and collaborate with the developmental disabled and special needs community in the future to develop similar course of studies. This is an important this is an important point that we need to really focus on, as we're reminded that the Global Citizens Program meets the city's quality of life master plan's core value of a healthy and livable city by providing accessible recreational sports, cultural, therapeutic community engagement facilities, and programs for all, and I repeat, all Temecula residents, including seniors, youth, families, and those with special needs. In addition, in 2009, the City Council directed the Community Services Department to develop an addendum to the Youth Master Plan that focuses on serving youth with special needs. One of the targeted strategies was through public-private partnerships and resources to build or expand current partnerships among public and private sector organizations that improve coordination, bridge gaps in services, and leverage resources opportunities. In order to provide each student with field experience, the city would rely on a collaborative effort with Spiro Vineyards. For example, a classroom lesson may consist of a growth cycle of how to prune grapes, with a follow-up field experience of hands-on pruning at the Spiro Vineyard. The classroom format will be held at the Temecula Civic Center, Public Library, the Community Garden at Mary Phillips Senior Center, and the Cal State San Marcos Temecula campus. Now, in order to meet our goal to place each student into a paid position, we will work towards partnering with local businesses who may hire graduates upon completion of the program. The partnership will allow businesses to gain access to employees who are prepared and ready to enter the workforce with the skills and training necessary to complete a variety of jobs. The Global Citizens Viticulture Hospitality Vocational Program will also offer job support and sensitivity training to businesses and organizations as needed. Now, upon City Council approval, the classroom portion of the program will begin March 20th, and limited field visits are scheduled through June 30th. During this pilot period, a program review will occur as part of the fiscal year 2014-15 annual operating budget discussions. If a decision is made to continue the proposed program on a year-round basis, the fiscal year 2014-15 total annual cost is estimated to be approximately $35,000. This represents staff time, program material, and supply costs. A breakdown would be as follows: $24,600 for estimated staff costs, $6,900 for classroom and field supplies, transportation and rental of the laboratory classroom, and about $3,500 for 7 vineyard field trip visits per year at about $500 each. In order to invest in capital improvements needed to make the vineyard field experience sustainable for this program, Spiro Vineyard owner Mark Woodsmall has also identified and applied for an Autism Speaks grant opportunity through the 501c3 Spiro Foundation in the amount of $25,000. A letter of intent is required by March 28th. The grant is due by April 28th, and recipients will be notified by September of this year. You should note that since 2007, Autism Speaks has awarded close to $3.7 million in community grants to 172 organizations across the country. Looking for the following key elements in proposals: credibility of the organization, innovation and creativity, cost effectiveness, ability to be replicated by other organizations, sustainability, viability of the project, and much, much more. In terms of the immediate fiscal impact, the city costs in the amount of $10,500, that's $8,200 in staff costs and $2,300 in supply costs required to facilitate this program, can be absorbed in our fiscal year 2013-14 Community Services Human Services operational budget. There are several members of the city staff here to answer any additional questions. That concludes my report.
Okay. So any immediate questions, Mr. Washington? Mr. Nagar? No. Kevin, could you please run over the city numbers again for me really quick? The city's obligation for the first phase one from March through June?
Yeah, that's 10,500.
Okay. All right. All right, looks like we have a number of requests to speak. So, and some of these names look familiar, so. All right, so first we have Julia, right?
Julia Rogoff, to be followed by Anthony Anselmo.
Hi, Julia.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me. My name is Julia Rogoff. I'm the director of a charity, local charity here named Lily's House. We are a charity that supports families with special needs in the Temecula Valley. special needs children, in the Temecula Valley. I also serve on the IRC committee for their Quality Enhancement Committee, and right now we're looking at this very issue that you're talking about, which is quality employment for special needs adults. One of the hardest things that I find for our about 1,000 families within our group, Lily's House, is the transition from high school to employment is very hard. Only about 10% of our disabled adults in Riverside County have employment, and that is in these work programs that are very warehouse driven. And what we're looking to do right now is come up with programs like this that will enhance their quality of life, give them employment that contributes to the community, as well as gives them skills where they can further their careers. The Lily's House families fully support this initiative, and we strongly urge the council to vote yes on the funding. My families are ready, willing, and able to provide any type of information. We have children that range from 6 months all the way to 35 years in our group. So the parent experience and the children's experience is a vast amount of knowledge there. So I strongly urge you guys to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Anselmo, to be followed by Mark Anselmo.
Come on up, Anthony. How are you? Good.
Okay, so my name is Anthony Anselmo, and my little brother Nick has autism. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you for partnering with our Nicholas Foundation and the special needs community. And Nicholas, my brother, is Nicholas in our Nicholas Foundation. So as a big brother, it makes me happy that he can participate in the things like the Easter egg hunt and like the swimming that you guys set up for him and for all the other special needs kids. And just one thing I'm really concerned about is his future and where he's gonna go to school and how he's gonna, like where he's gonna work and everything, and how our family's going to adapt to the changes as he gets older. Your support of the Global Citizen Special Needs Program is really appreciated. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mark Anselmo, to be followed by Catherine and Doug Snodgrass.
Hi, Dad. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you? Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And as far as expressing my joy and gratitude with city staff and with city council members and everybody else, you already know I'm probably your largest fan, and you guys have been here for us for a number of years. Nicholas obviously was diagnosed 10 plus years ago with autism. We started our Nicholas Foundation 9 years ago, and the reality of it is we wouldn't be where we are today. I'm blessed in a certain way where I've gotten to live both lives. I've got obviously my 16-year-old who's driving now, which is not a good thing. And so I know the typical world, if you will. And then I've got my Nicholas, who's 12 years old with autism, so I know the special needs world. And so I lived the carefree world of the typical population for a number of years, and then when autism hit, it was brake lights on. You had to wake up and smell the coffee and figure out, what are you gonna do today? What are the next 24 hours gonna bring me? What's gonna happen? And so I've seen the path of planning for Anthony as an older brother, and I can see it clearly. For Nicholas, I can't. I wake up each morning in fear of where are we gonna be, what are we gonna do, what's gonna be happening tomorrow, let alone is he gonna be one of the statistics on the street now where you're seeing 90% of this autistic special needs population becoming homeless because there's no direction, there's no college curriculum, there's no employment process. So I think instead of getting bogged down in the details, all I want to plead to you at this point is take a look at what's happening in the community and take a look at the needs that are there across the board, and never think we're doing enough, because you can look in the audience right now and you'll see a decent representation of the population, the special needs world. But many times people think, well, you know, maybe it's a tiny corner of the community. The reality of it is many of us can't get out to be here. We can't get out here to express our concerns because we have to arrange respite care. You know, it's a divide and conquer in our world. That's why we're at 83% divorce rate in our community now. So we're trying to stop that. So bottom line, we're just looking to see the future be a little bit clearer for us. And, you know, you mentioned close the gap with the Gary Sinise Foundation and Temecula is all about that. Everywhere we go and we talk to these different officials, we were in LA last week talking to some folks, and they're all, how's Temecula doing this? You know, it's amazing. You guys, Reality Rally with breast cancer support, Boys and Girls Club, you know, everywhere you look, Temecula's there. And I think you guys can continue to be that founding father and mothers of the special needs community. And I commend you for your efforts. I know it's challenging at times. I know funding, people look at numbers, but honestly, if you look at the big picture, the bigger concern should be, what is the economic impact down the road if we don't do something now? Will we have to fund homeless shelters for special needs individuals? Will we have to beef up police scenarios because this path wasn't taken? So just to stop babbling for a moment, I appreciate your help, and I hope you look at the big picture. We support any initiative that has to do with youth employment growth across the board. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Catherine and Doug Snodgrass, to be followed by Kathleen Rios.
Good evening, City Council members.
Hi.
My name is Catherine Snodgrass,
And I'm Doug Snodgrass.
and we are here tonight to appeal to you for continued funding and support of city programs such as the Global Citizens Program, which benefit our special needs community. We think it's very important to invest in these individuals who do rely on the kindness of others while they, along with their families, are forced to cope with exhausting lifelong struggles. We have an opportunity to be a shining example of a city who shows great compassion for its special needs residents. This is a fast-growing population in our city, and they do deserve a chance to be a productive part of society and thrive in our community. We can also share our personal success story with you. This past summer, our son Jesse participated in the city's Global Citizens Program. He learned many life skills, including employment training, interviewing skills, using public transportation, getting a library card, and CPR instruction. He also had a chance to socialize with a great group of people who, like him, had difficulty navigating our conventional world. Jesse managed to graduate with a diploma and now holds a part-time job. The Global Citizens Program was able to strengthen the character of each of these young people by building their self-esteem and reminded them that they were exceptional, not disabled, but differently abled human beings.
Due to the Global Citizens Program, the city of Temecula can share in Jesse's success. They share credit in it. We think it's also valuable to look at a contrast in approaches. In Jesse, the school district saw limitations, in our opinion, but the city's Global Citizens Program allowed Jesse to come to this program. He came to this program as an incredibly wounded human being, but they allowed him to dream. For the school district's transition services, their adult transition services, they wrote that they were preparing him for a career as a sign spinner. And there's nothing wrong with having a job as a sign spinner, but we don't feel that for him it was an appropriate long-term career goal. In our view, the school district is falling woefully short in preparing the differently abled for adult life, and we've seen no evidence that this is going to change in the immediate future. In contrast, the city was vital in Jesse's success, and now he has, instead of a future behind bars, he has a future. And the city can look at him as a real-life case study of success. Now, I want to put this up on the screen to illustrate something here. This is our son Jesse, and as you see, Rolling Stone That's our son Jesse, handsome boy. Fortunately, he got his mom's looks. And as you know, there's been a lot of attention to Temecula recently. Currently, there's a heck of a lot. And we can share with you that there's a lot more coming down the pike, both nationally and internationally. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny on Temecula. And what we have is an opportunity for Temecula to be an example of a community that does right by their differently abled kids and their neurotypical kids, those who are not differently abled. And I think it would really be a good chance for a city to continue this theme of Temeculizing. Let's make it something around the world that is viewed as a real positive thing. We don't want to be seen as the city that dropped the needs of our most vulnerable. And we have a chance on an international stage to really look like the good, decent people that we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kathleen Rios, to be followed by Greg and Jennifer Smith.
Kathleen, welcome.
Thank you for having us all here, welcoming us here. I'm terrified.
Don't, you're fine. You're just fine.
I first want to say thank you, Mayor, for responding to me personally. I've already sent you what I'm about to tell you, and I really appreciate the time that you took to address me and my concerns as a person. I really appreciate that. My name is Kathleen Rios, and we moved to Temecula specifically because of the special needs community. We had never been to see Santa Claus before. My daughter had never been to an Easter egg hunt before. Those things are terrifying when you know that there might be a meltdown because there are behaviors for a new situation. And Temecula has really made us able to participate in the community like every family next door. That is unique. It is not everywhere else. We realize that is special and unique, so thank you very much for making Temecula home for all of us. My daughter Alina is going to be 17 this summer, and she's autistic, and we have no idea what's going to happen after high school. I recently learned about this program, and it's so exciting because everything that I've heard from parents who've been there already, been down the road of adult service programs, has hit and miss experiences. A lot of what we are looking at out there is equating to adult daycare kind of situations, and that meets a lot of the needs of our community, but it certainly doesn't meet all of the needs. They are void of a larger purpose. They do nothing to further the ongoing goals and growth of that individual. We have so much to teach them beyond high school. As it is, we're in the school program until we're 23. There's a reason for that. And these programs that, like this one, give people kind of the personal value and enrichment in their lives for this community that's often forgotten or shelved. With proper and ongoing supports and training, adults with special needs are capable of spectacular things, but they're also capable of perfectly typical, average, day-to-day things like holding a purposeful job. As employees, they can be just as valuable, dedicated, and irreplaceable as any of their neurotypical peers. And contributing to the community is just as meaningful to them as it is to any other adult, but the training and supports are very hard to come by. They're hard to find, they're hard to access. I believe that this program will be filling a gap in our community that is not just an extra, but a necessary and integral cog to the larger works of the city of Temecula. I urge you to look at this program as meeting that need, not providing an extra to a small population where the cost could possibly outweigh its value. If there's to be judgment on this, let it be on the merits of the efficacy of the program itself, not whether there's real need for their program. There's need, it's just a fact. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration. I value your roles in what you do for us, and thank you for hearing me out today.
Greg and Jennifer Smith, and our final speaker is Teresa Sester.
Where's Greg? Oh. You can come up, Greg. Come on. You'll be fine.
We won't
We
bite.
actually didn't know that we were going to
hard.
have an opportunity to speak. And I want to thank you for all of the efforts. We have a family of 5 boys. We have a similar situation. We have typical children, and we have 3 children on the spectrum. And we have the experience of kind of knowing the trajectory of our older kids, but our younger kids, we really are kind of at a loss. And we've been so welcomed. We moved here 2 years ago from Orange County, and when you guys were talking about what you do for the military families, I whispered in his ear. I said, it's what they do for us. Every time we turn around, you guys are addressing our needs. Our Nicholas Foundation, Lily's House, everything's there. And I just wanted to express to you the thing that we worry about most is the dignity. That is a right for everybody, not just, for all children, for all adults. And this opportunity for them to have something to look forward to have a direction. That's what it is. The difference between our typical children and the children with special needs is opportunity. And this is exactly what that program speaks to, is opportunity and the dignity they will have of earning a wage, of being able to contribute to their life as they grow. That's what we all want. That's how we all go to college. That's what we all, launch out and spread our wings. They deserve that same right. So I thank you for your time and your attention and your consideration. I think this is an essential next step in what the community in Temecula can offer our families. So thank you for your time.
I want to thank Mr. Nagar. Gave us a real special treat with the Circus Vargas. Oh, and kind of another example of what you guys do for our families. We're going to step out and go, and it's a big deal when you have children like that, and you appreciate that. I didn't know another situation where I didn't know we had tickets, Jenny had tickets, and we're going to take the kids to the circus, and you folks in the audience here understand special needs and what the difference is, and it's a difference. And we went there, and Mike stepped up and showed the hands from the different, Lily's House and all the other people that were there, and it was like, wow, they're all here for for us, all of us together. It wasn't going to be, we made it halfway through before we had a meltdown. But the kids had an experience, and that's so special. And I can imagine for the kids that are 16, we don't have 16 yet, but that will also be special.
It's vital,
And God, when you look at your little kid, and you guys care, I want to thank all of you for caring, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
And final speaker is Teresa Sester.
Hi, Teresa.
Hi, good evening. So I'm here today to speak to the council as a special education advocate and a parent with a child that has a developmental disability. So this vocational program that we're talking about is it's very meaningful to me because my son also participated in one of the city's past youth workability programs, and they set aside 20 grants for children with IEPs. And he was subsequently a recipient of that. And I just wanted to talk about what that meant to him and to us as a family, and then also maybe just in general how I think this program is really vital to our community. So I've got notes everywhere, I apologize.
That's all right, you're doing fine.
Okay, so I recognized early on that my son had disadvantages with the ability to earn a livelihood, to enjoy social contacts, and to gain self-esteem. And getting a job does boost self-esteem, it fosters independence, and it makes life much more interesting, not to mention paying the bills, which is particularly important to me as a parent. I can tell you that my son's ability to have paid employment has provided him with an income to meet his basic needs. And his paid employment also provides the means for him to meet the additional costs of associated with his disability. For instance, he recently required the assistance of a bookkeeper because of his inability to budget and be able to pay his bills. And because of his paid employment, he was able to hire a bookkeeper to help him with that. He also requires technology to just keep up with the organization of, daily life skills. And he was able to afford that as well. I also wanted to talk about that people with disabilities, finding a job reduces the frustration and loneliness that they feel. And not having a job reinforces social isolation, misery, and despair most of the time. Paid employment provides disabled persons with an opportunity to show that they can contribute to the community, and it offers them ultimately an opportunity to be recognized as a contributing member to their community. So I spoke to my son before the meeting tonight because I wanted to get his perspective on what the city's youth workability program was able to offer him and what those benefits were. And just to sum up, essentially his response was that it provided him with, I'm sorry.
You're fine.
Pride and confidence in his abilities. Anyway, it's very important, and I just want to thank Mr. Mark Woodsmall, particularly applaud him for sharing his zeal, for providing solutions for our community special needs youth, and I want to thank you, Mr. Nagar, for continuously looking for opportunities to enhance the lives of our youth with disabilities in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. No further speakers? All right. Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Washington.
Thank you, Mayor Edwards. Everybody's comments are very moving, and I'm just going to tell you right up front, I plan on supporting this item on the agenda tonight, and I want to give kudos also to my colleague, Mr. Nagar, for his tireless efforts to support special needs in our community. My family moved up here in '89. My wife and my daughter and myself, our daughter was 6 years old at the time, and she lives 15 minutes away from us up in the Harveston area with our son-in-law, a wonderful young man, Elliot, who went to high school with her at Chaparral. And we have a little granddaughter that they've given us, 21-month-old. And I feel that we are so blessed for the family that we do have. In the early years, my wife and I, because my job as an airline pilot allowed me days off during the week, we would volunteer at our daughter's elementary school. We were prohibited from coming to the middle school, not by the school administrators, but by our daughter. That's how they are. So our involvement in school activities sort of waned through the middle school years and certainly in the high school years. And I found myself getting more and more involved in community. In the early years, back in the early 90s, and actually when we moved here, there was no city of Temecula and no city of Murrieta. Murrieta was about 25,000 people. Temecula was about 35,000 people. And everybody knew everybody else. And everybody was on PTA, and everybody was on every committee that there was, because there weren't enough of you to go around. I even met Alice Sullivan, our president of our chamber. Back then, I was part of an education committee for the Temecula Chamber back in the early 90s. I started getting more involved in other things, and somebody said, hey, you should run for city council. And I thought, okay, what is it? I'd never been to a council meeting, didn't really know anything other than governor and president. Somehow I got elected without knowing much, but then I felt like since I was elected, I should learn about what cities do. And I think in the intervening years, I've gotten very busy doing that and gotten pretty good at it, I think. But one of the things I marveled at, and this goes back to when I first met Mark and Kathy and Selmo, and they had already started our Nicholas Foundation. And I was amazed at how much, even in the early years, they had achieved, and all the things that were going on in our community. And a lot of you addressed those things that were being done that I wasn't involved in, my wife wasn't involved in. People were doing things because they needed to be done, and because there was a need out there. And I think where I personally have really found a home on this council and with this city is in ways that we can partner with those folks out there that are doing things to help make people's lives a little bit better. And I think, and you have to be the judge of it, but I think you have spoken with your votes in the polling places that you like what we've been doing. But I have to say that that's been what we have tried to do, what we have seemed to excel at as a city, as a community, is coming together, facilitating partnerships with the resources we have, which are limited at the city, trying to leverage those dollars into things that accomplish meaningful achievements on behalf of our citizens. But really the kudos go to those of you that do it day in and day out. And we don't have a child with autism, so it would be disingenuous for me to say, I know what you're going through, because I don't. But I do appreciate what you go through. And as long as I occupy a seat up here, I will continue to fight for ways that we can help people and improve their quality of life.
Nagar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and well said, Mr. Washington. Although I think I've worked with you now going on almost 12 years, and you have a natural ability to empathize with people, though. So why I hear you say that you don't know, I've seen you absorb some pain and anguish and understanding of a lot of people who are in need. I've seen that in you. That's a characteristic of you. A couple of things, just sort of, I'm going to meander around here a bit, and I'm going to try to keep it somewhat brief.
Meander away.
Supervisor Jeff Stone asked that we reread a letter of his that he sent at the last minute into the record. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but I'm going to paraphrase it, and I think it's important because he emphasized that, Mike, I want you, if he was going to try to be here, he had another event, and he was going to try to make it, but he said if he's not, if I can go ahead and read it. But I don't want to read the whole thing because it might get a little long. But in paraphrasing, Supervisor Stone says, I want to strongly encourage you to approve the Viticulture Hospitality Career Training on this evening's agenda. This type of post-secondary education is vital for our children who, after exiting the school system, often have nowhere to turn for comprehensive career training that will lead to meaningful employment. As a result of your past efforts, we have learned that the developmentally disabled are not the quote-unquote unable, and in fact, in many areas and careers, they can and do excel. They only become limited because strict requirements for traditional college entry testing or traditional preliminary job interview requirements often eliminate them from consideration because they do not accommodate the way some folks think and communicate. You are continuing to break down these barriers with your city programs and internships. And then this was his pledge. I'm impressed with your efforts, and you can count on me to support the Viticulture Hospitality Program. And he also told me personally that next fiscal year, he's going to lend a contribution toward help funding it as soon as the county puts out his next budget. It's out of funding for the rest of this year, but he pledged some support beginning in the next fiscal year. So, Supervisor Stone, we thank you for weighing in. Next, I forgot during my council comments, and the speaker reminded me, if you get a chance, give a shout out and a thank you to Circus Vargas. They came, rolled into town, and said, you know what, how can we help your community? What's the big issue? What's going on right now? And I happen to have a very distant relationship with those folks. The owner, Circus Vargas, hired me when he was with Ringling Brothers when I was 15 years old.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's really weird, okay?
No.
It's really weird. So we happen to have a little bit of reunion, and I said, well, by the way, we have a big special needs movement. And boy, there's a lot of people who'd like to attend the circus. So you know what he did? He made 200 tickets available, no questions asked, and people who probably could not afford to go to the circus, or those that would not go to the circus. You know, you had mentioned that you made it halfway through. I can't tell you how many times families would say, you know, I'm not going to go spend $150 on tickets and know that we may not even make it through the show, so better not just go. But 200 people showed up and got to enjoy the circus. Send them an email, thank them for that, because they need to know we appreciated it. Now, I want to, you know, we hear the term special needs, and sometimes I think it's unfortunate because it gets, what is special needs? You know, people sometimes don't know what that is, or it gets watered down, or you know, you use a term often enough and maybe it loses some of its power and its punch. But, you know, when we talk about special needs or developmental disabilities, I want you to consider that includes both children and adults. Runs the gamut. You have attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, autism spectrum disorder, cerebral palsy, Fragile X syndrome, those with major hearing loss. You have intellectual disabilities, muscular dystrophy, Tourette syndrome, vision impairment. I can continue on and on and on.
Military with brain injuries.
Military with brain injuries. We were talking about, though we're providing homes or helping to provide homes for our military servicemen who lost limbs. There are so many disabilities and developmental disabilities. And then interestingly enough, doing a little bit of research, I just wanted to pull some numbers on Temecula. You know, the Census Bureau puts out good information and they do community surveys every 3 years. This is from 2012. And interesting, out of our population here in Temecula, those aged 5 to 17 years old, we have about 24,949. 5.8% of that population reports a disability. That's very large. Out of our population here in Temecula, 18 to 64 years of age, that's about 62,500 people, 7.2% of those people report a disability. And then it goes up tremendously when you get 65 years and over. Those in our community, 65 years and over, we have about 7,747, 65 years and older who reported disability. About 35% of that number, 7,747 reported disability. You just never hear about them because they're not here, they're not speaking up, but they're out there, and everybody needs these services. Those are just a few stats. I don't want to bore people with stats, but the need in our community is very great, and I think this council has realized that. Now, the city likes to do master plans. That's kind of how we kind of govern ourselves. We find that when we sit down and we do some strategic planning, it becomes a lot easier to implement those plans. You have a guidepost. You decide where you want to go and you go there, no different than career plans for any individual. And several master plans that we've done here, to give you an example, is what you enjoy here in Old Town was part of a master plan that was done almost 15 years ago in 1997 that foresaw what Old Town would become today. We have a arts and cultural master plan. We've just recently finished the Jefferson Corridor master plan. And back in 2000, I believe it was 2008, Mr. Washington, was it, or was it 2007, you brought forward to the council to do the youth master plan. Is that 2008? And I remember Mr. Washington saying that while he was on the council in Murrieta, somebody brought him this youth master plan that the city of Claremont did. And there was really no desire in Murrieta to implement such a plan, but the city of Temecula undertook putting together a youth master plan. And the council adopted that. And what was interesting about that plan is it just wasn't something we did here on the dais. It probably took a good 7 to 9 months to develop that plan. It took a consultant, it took stakeholder meetings, it meant meeting with the youth community, it meant meeting with all kinds of youth service providers, it meant meeting with parents, it meant looking at the needs of our youth and our culture. At first it got off slow because the youth didn't want to participate, but then the charrettes started, and we started breaking down barriers, and people started talking, and it became very enriching for us. And in fact, I remember, Chuck, because we were on the subcommittee who did that, I remember finally we had kids who came out who, let's just put it this way, didn't dress conventionally, okay? Let's just put it that way. Or fit stereotypes that I may have prejudged them with, and others may have prejudged them with. But when they started to talk, and when they started to get engaged, all of those barriers came down because they were just people, they were just youth. The reason why I bring this up is that engaging in those plans were very telling, and we are constantly implementing that plan today. In fact, I'd love to go through the whole entire youth master plan. In fact, maybe one day we should probably revisit it and see exactly where we've hit the marks and where we haven't. I bet you dollars to donuts, we're probably a good 50% hitting the mark on that thing. We've been implementing it. But the council went a little bit further. In 2009, we implemented an addendum to that youth master plan, and it was a special needs addendum, because we realized that that was a voice that really wasn't listened to while we were putting together the youth master plan. And, you know, I brought a copy with me, and I can go through it. I'm not going to do that. I think it would take too long. But as I look through it, I have to compliment our staff, our Human Services Department. I see Charles Walker back there. Yvette Martinez is in here. Both of them have teams that they work with, Hawkins, that they've just been spot on. I mean, with the things that they've done with the Autism Task Force. We've implemented training with the police and fire departments now. We've gotten the special needs resource guide out there. I mean, you go through the plan, we've hit it, okay? I mean, and we're continuing to hit it. And the item that's before us tonight is also in that addendum. Creating public-private partnerships, finding areas of training and need, finding areas to help our children and young adults find meaningful and gainful employment. It's all in here. I'm not going to go through it piece by piece, but it's on the website if somebody wants to look at it. Two other things I want to talk about, and that was the evolution of this program. I'd like to sit here and take credit for it, but really I have to tell you what the evolution was. I happened to run across Mr. Woodsmall. Mr. Woodsmall has a 10-year-old son who's on the autism spectrum, and he happens to be a special needs attorney. He says, you know, Mike, boy, I just love Temecula. I bought a place out there in the wine country, and he did, and he wants to do a winery and also teach special needs kids and help them have gainful employment. I go, wow, that's pretty cool. That's right in accordance with the special needs master plan. So, you know, who do I call immediately after that? Mark Anselmo, okay? Because he's our go-to guy here, and in fact, that same thing has been a dream for Mark as well. So we get everybody together. We also bring in Mike Rennie from Leonese Cellars, who's got a wonderful heart.
Yeah,
and
he's a good guy.
Is a great guy. And we say, well, what can we do? And the first evolution was, well, we need a curriculum. What would this be? Well, let's not duplicate things. Mount San Jacinto College, Cal State is already doing this. Let's just bring them in as a partnership, and that's where that was going to go. After directing staff to go look and seeing if we can set up those meetings and set up that partnership, it became evident that to get them on board, which I think they would be on board, would just take a very long time to get through their process. And so kind of quietly, kind of humbly, the Hawk and his team and Charles and Yvette and Aaron come. Our city manager says, you know, Mike, our staff likes to take a crack at this ourselves. And I said, well, okay, hey, have at it. And they did, and that's what they came up with. And then they lined up the speakers, and they lined up the curriculum. So if any kudos or thanks are out there, it really should go to them. It was their brainchild, okay, and they brought it forward. And the last thing I'm going to say is we're funded throughout the fiscal year. We'll find the money to continue the program. We'll do it through Supervisor Stone. We'll do it through private resources. Mr. Woodsmall's applying for a grant with Autism Speaks. Autism Speaks is a national organization. They recognize the partnerships that we're perhaps going to enter into with Spiro this evening. And I would love Autism Speaks, this national organization, to come down to Temecula and put Temecula on the map in regards to these type of programs. Then lastly, I would love these type of training programs to be available to everybody. We focus on special needs and developmental disabilities, but as I read the letter earlier today from the Department of Education, we have an internship program that runs the gamut, that from not only special needs, but from children and kids of every age, from every socioeconomic group, from every color, from every interest. And they're coming here, and we're interning them and giving them experience, and they're taking that and going to college with it. They're taking that and getting jobs with that. To me, that's our duty here as a community. That's what we do. Why do we do it? Because we can. I don't care that anybody else isn't doing it. I hope that we're the first and everybody copy us. And I think partnering with private organizations, as Mr. Washington said, is how we get the most bang for our buck. So obviously I support this, and I appreciate everybody just taking the time to listen to me and kind of spit these things out. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nagar. You know, I'm looking out at the audience, and some families have had to leave, and we all know why. If they brought kids, they just can't sit here. So for those of you who are able to stay, we're very glad that you have. And I really enjoyed the email exchanges I had with you parents who traded emails with me this week. And I have to say that you have been hidden for a long time. And for those of us who don't deal with children with disabilities every day, this is kind of new to us and very eye-opening. You know, we come in contact with families who may have a disabled child or a child with special needs, or maybe there's a child that has been in a class with our children, but you live with it every day. And so working with Councilmember Nagar, it has really enlightened us and kind of brought it home for us. And I think the work that he has done really has helped you come out into the light with the issue. And so when people say, what are you doing down there in Temecula, I think, I don't know which of you said it, but many of you said it in the same way. It has allowed you to come out into the community and to just feel like you're a part of the community. You didn't feel like you were, you didn't get stares. You just felt comfortable being in the community. And how simple a thing is that you could just walk down the street and feel like you actually lived here and weren't the object of whispers, or that you just felt comfortable. And so I think that's something that we all take for granted, and maybe we shouldn't always do that. So to you, I say, welcome to Temecula. Maybe some of you for the first time, even if you've lived here for 2 or 3 years. And I really, I took a lot from what you said. Jennifer and Greg, you did a great job, by the way, so you did need to come and speak. So don't ever think that you can't speak. You spoke from the heart. You said every time we turned around, someone was there. Every time we turned around, someone was there. And it wasn't necessarily the city, because you mentioned Lily's House and our Nicholas Foundation, and you may have been directed to them by, someone from the city. And I have to say that because of what Councilmember Nagar did, I mean, he brought all of this to light. And because of that, brought emphasis to it, and here we are today. So, I mean, he is the hero on the city side for sure. But you put emphasis on the nonprofits, and I love that, because I really believe that our answer to this and to future issues, it lies with the nonprofits that provide those services to special needs. Now, everybody knows I work for the Boys and Girls Club, and we do not have the capacity to serve the entire special needs community. Yes, we do have several children with special needs, but they come in with caregivers because they want that mainstream experience. So I'm not speaking about this because that's what we do at the Boys and Girls Club. but I can certainly understand there is a need, a desperate need for these types of services. And I know there must be more nonprofits than Lily's House and our Nicholas Foundation out there. And I also know that the city has developed that list of resources for you. I think that the city's key role in all of this is to act as the facilitator, the empowerment agency to kind of pull everything together. And that's what we have been doing, to help coordinate, to help you find resources, to uncover those resources, to attract more resources. I like to say that need, just like nature, need abhors a vacuum. So if we sit down and we do an assessment of all the agencies that we have and all the support that we have, you immediately, and this is what we did with the Gary Sinise Foundation, we said, where are the holes, where are the gaps, and what do we need? You immediately will identify what type of services you need, and one of you or somebody will step up and say, I can do that, and they will start filling that need, and they'll start a nonprofit that fills that need. And pretty soon, that's how Temecula becomes that place where all the needs are met. But they're not met by the city starting another program or the city starting another service. They're met because the city brought you all together, you decided what the need was, and you stepped up as people who understand exactly how it should be done and filled that need by starting nonprofit. Now, I know that, we have the Autism Task Force, and I don't know how exactly the city would facilitate that, but I can tell you I've grown up in the world of nonprofits. I've been on probably 30 different nonprofit boards, and I will volunteer to sit down with you as parents or as groups of the different nonprofits and help you sort this out if that's what you need to do, to assess, to do a type of a summit and decide what our resources are. How do we do this? How do we facilitate it? You're talking about viticulture, and that's just one possibility. We've got a program at the Boys and Girls Club called Career Launch, and we send our kids, early teens, the tweens is what we call them, we send them to our local manufacturers in groups of 20, and they spend 6 weeks doing exactly what you talked about, resume building, financial, handling their finances. It's exactly the same thing. They get hands-on experience at our manufacturers. Why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't you go to Walmart? Why couldn't you go to some other of the retailers that hire people with special needs? Why couldn't you do that? Why just viticulture? I'm saying viticulture is fabulous, but I think there are other areas that you could expand to. But you're going to need an agency that can coordinate all of that for you. So there's a potential nonprofit right there, somebody who can coordinate all that placement, all of that training. So I can see a potential for this just to be huge. It's just a matter of getting together and deciding how we're going to do this, and then we have to find funding. Well, there are grant resources. I write grants for my agency, so it's a whole world of nonprofits, but you have to know how to coordinate it and discover what the resources are. I'd be glad to help you sit down, figure out how to do it, what a strategic plan can look like, and you just have to kind of come together as volunteers and figure it out, and that's how it works. So I'd be willing to we can facilitate it through the city. I don't want to step on toes of any committees that the city already has. So if there's already a structure in place to do that, then we'd be glad to help you get together and do that. But that is the role that I see the city fulfilling. And then I will totally support this. It'll go at least through the end of this fiscal year. Hopefully we can have some structure in place for you. I would eventually like to see you become, as an organization or something, or a lead organization, self-sufficient. I think the city will always have a hand in supporting you. If there's a committee or a board or something, I think the city would always have a hand and play a vital role in that as a major facilitator or a support system for you. But I think there's a huge potential here to see Temecula as a major center for support like this, with the city playing that type of role. So, any questions, any more comments?
No, I'll move the item.
Second.
Motion and a second. And,
Madam Mayor,
yes,
the recommended action is to provide direction as to how to fund this, so I think the motion needs to be a little bit more specific than just moving the item tonight.
Move it per staff recommendation. How's that?
And-
Okay, let's break it down. Go ahead, Mr. Adam.
I believe the fiscal impact for this is, can be absorbed within the existing community services budget, and it equates to $10,500, which includes staff time and program costs through the fiscal year. So that would likely be the recommended action to expend those dollars.
What would happen, is the program running through the next fiscal year?
No, to June 30th, because it's on our fiscal year budget.
So one session for certain would be funded, and then if it's successful, when we start looking at our budget for the next year, we can determine whether or not we want to fund it again?
Absolutely, and we'll be meeting with the City Council in May with the budget workshop, and we'll have at least 30 days of this program underway where we can evaluate and make a staff recommendation to the council for fiscal year 14-15 starting July 1.
Very good. So I'll go ahead and change my motion that the city approve the program, give funding direction to support the program through this fiscal year. Is that sufficient?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good. Second.
okay. And that is 3 with Mayor Pro Tem Comachero and Councilmember Roberts absent. So we are good through June 30th, and we'll revisit. Okay, do we have a city manager report?
Nothing tonight, Madam Mayor.
Peter, anything?
Yes, we had 2 items on closed session, 2 litigation items. The council gave us direction with respect to those matters, but we have no actions to report under the Brown Act.
All right, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion and Mr. Nagar.
I want to stay for a while.
No, you do not.
Okay, second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.